Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. I want to give a shout out to last week's giveaway winner Janet Gray. If you're interested in a chance to win a $20 Amazon gift card, all you have to do is leave as many comments as you'd like on each video I upload this week, starting Monday the 19th until Sunday the 25th. Then at the end of the week, I'll draw a random commenter. So I look forward to seeing your guys' comments this upcoming week, as it's literally such a joy to see everyone enjoying themselves, and best of luck. And our first story of the day is by The Breakup 2013. Short me $70,000 in violation of our written agreement? It'll cost you $1.8 million. Background: a year out of school in the early 1990s, I procured a job as a business analyst for a large family-owned tech company. This business was located in the booming heart of technology at the time and was very profitable. As tech took off over the next decade, the company thrived and remained family-owned. What was a rich family and company became exceedingly wealthy with a valuation/net worth in the high 9/low 10 figures. The family that owned it was quite neurotic, very moody, and had a reputation as very ruthless, greedy, when it came to financing, deal-making, employees, etc. I truly believe this is what held them back from ultimately becoming a household name as a company. As I progressed in the company, I gained more and more face time with the owners. I worked on some projects directly with ownership that really paid off and gained me even greater access to their inner circle. Now, like a lot of people at the time, and particularly those who worked in tech, I was heavily invested in tech stocks. I discussed some of my investments and gains with ownership as casual conversation, though investing had nothing to do with my role in the company. That is, until one day in late 1999, when the owner came to me and asked me if I would like to invest some of his personal money. He wanted me to take big risks to see if they would pay off using $1 million of his personal money. I was a bit hesitant, but still being in my late 20s and wanting to prove myself, I said I would. I asked for a written agreement where they acknowledged this wasn't my role in the company, it was a personal matter between the owner and me, and to document my compensation for this side arrangement, 20% of all profits. Around this same time, and by working in the industry, I started to notice the weakness associated with a lot of tech companies. They just weren't living up to their hype, and stock price in some seemed like they were starting to run out of money. I had no inside information, just a strong sense of which companies were struggling based on my work in the business. Based on this sense, I started using both my money and the owner's money to short tech companies just after the new year in 2000. For anyone unfamiliar with shorting, it means if the value of a stock decreases, the value of the investment decreases. I had a few long positions, but my overall position was very short. Since the owner wanted big risk and big reward, I used his money and obtained leverage or margin from the financial institution, where I maintained both his and my trading accounts. The accounts were separate, but both under my name. Again, I documented this and gained consent. Well, both my account and his suffered some moderate losses in the first 2 months of 2000. Before the bubble began to burst, and both accounts, but his in particular, began to skyrocket. Ownership's pettiness. In June, the company began to suffer a downturn. We were still profitable, but since we provided tech services and products, we were not immune to weakness in the broader market. I had not informed the owner of my short strategy. He came to me one day and asked how his money was doing, saying he suspected it was way down like the general market. To his surprise, I informed him that while we still had some money tied up in options, puts, and shorts, but based on the positions I had closed, there was $1.3 million in cash sitting in the account that belonged to him. Again, I still had a bunch of open positions which, if memory serves, were worth about $1 million on that date, but the positions I had closed had yielded $1.3 million in cash just sitting in his account, which was in my name. The owner, either through ignorance or lack of attention, said, "Great, $1.35 million. Fantastic work in this down market. Will you please wire it to me?" I responded that I would, but would be taking my 20% of the $350,000 profit, or $70,000 before wiring him the $280,000. I also reminded him I still had open positions that had yet to pay off or close, but I didn't state the amount. He, once again, appeared not to understand or comprehend the open position statement, but instead totally focused on and became incensed about my rightful claim for $70,000. He went on and on about how times were tough. I should be grateful for a job, particularly at my young age, and the entire $350,000 was necessary for him and the company. I knew this wasn't true based on my position within the company. Worse, this was my first time personally experiencing the greedy and corrupt nature that served as the basis for ownership's reputation. The revenge. Now comes the revenge. Since, after 2 separate conversations, the owner didn't seem to grasp that the open positions would yield at least some income, and thus additional profit, I decided not to mention it again. I sent him back the entire $1.35 million and continued to manage the open positions to the best of my ability. And here's the kicker. The owner never brought it up again. He seemed to think the $1.35 million payment was the entire value of the account and never understood or remembered that the open positions still existed. He never asked for records, tax documents, or any time of audit or financials. Given the fact that he was dishonest with me, I didn't feel the need to disabuse him of that notion. Ultimately, after a bit more net gain, I covered all of the shorts and exercised all of the options, puts in this case, for an additional $1.8 million. I worked for the company for 3 more years and owner never asked about it during my tenure, after I gave notice, or since. I know it's a bit crass and even shady as freak, but given his dishonesty with me over the 70 grand, I felt justified in keeping the additional 1.8 million. I paid taxes on the gain, long-term cap gain, and went on with my way with a fantastic nest egg. Nobody has asked about it since, and I have only told the story to a few people, and even then only after the statute of limitations passed. The final ironic cherry on top of this sundae is that during my remaining 3 years, I gained greater influence with ownership in position within the company because they considered me loyal for giving the 1.35 million back and not making too much of a stink about the 70 grand profit. Little did they know I got the better of them. The company eventually folded due to family disputes. But my understanding is that ownership walked away in very good financial position. They likely could have been a much better and greater company had they not practiced the same dishonesty that they showed me with their vendors, clients, and employees. So, considering that OP just admitted to taking $1.8 million, do you think they should have avoided posting about it on Reddit even after the statute of limitations? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Danny DeJong. Tell me I'm wrong about how to dilute a chemical. Go ahead and do it over and over and over again. Had my first day of physical college class today, and we can only come back for practical classes for my science subjects, so no lectures. I've never seen my classmates, only shared online classes with them previously, and only know their names, but not what they look like. So today was the first time seeing them, and the teacher split us into groups of 5 to do some preparation for a simple experiment. Chemistry. So what we were doing first was having a chemical with a known concentration, and we had to dilute it to 4 different concentrations, and we needed 250 milliliters volumes of them. So pretty much like a cordial drink. If you want it stronger, you put more cordial into the water. So for this, you had to calculate how much chemical you needed, and you put it into a volumetric flask, which has a fixed and very accurate set volume, 250 milliliters in this case, and a thin neck at the top so you can't really make a mistake by overfilling it. That's what we're supposed to do, and anyone who's ever been to a lab and done the tiniest bit of chemistry in there would know it's the obvious thing to do. However, what my group was doing was putting the chemical into a conical flask, that stereotypical looking flask in a lab with a very thick neck and approximate values for volume. With a thick neck, you can remove 5 milliliters or add 5 milliliters and it'll still look like it meets the volume marking on the flask. After adding the chemical into the conical flask, they diluted with water to the 250 milliliter marking. and then put it into the volumetric flask. By doing this, the difference in volume will keep making you miss the mark in the volumetric flask. The teacher was crap, and the drawing she made on the board looked like a conical flask, so I can't blame them. But I've done this before many times and assume they have as well, but I guess not. So I explained the above to them and told them why it was wrong. And I was met with the faces of 2 members looking at me as if I had just told them the moon was really made out of cheese. I'm very shy in real life and wouldn't talk if I don't have to, and after telling them why it was wrong, one of the 2 members that were listening just said, "No, that's not what the teacher said, and she will just tell you to do it this way." Fair enough, go ahead. Then the second member pointed at the uncertainty on the volumetric flask, 250 plus or minus 0.15 milliliters, and said, "See, this is not accurate," and then proceeded to point at the one on the conical flask and stuttered as he read 250 milliliter approximate value as if he read something in another language, and still continued about the preparation. They did it 2 more times, overfilling the volumetric flask, and they knew something was wrong. I had nothing else to explain why it was wrong, so I just asked if they were sure they didn't want to just ask the teacher. And this girl just turned around and said in the most condescending way, "Oh my god, can someone just explain to him?" And the other guy tells me they're fine and to maybe help the other members. So I just shut up and let them do their thing, over and over and over and over again, and decided I'd go and help the other 2 members with another part of preparation while watching the first 2 members. They did the same thing 8 times, measuring the volume of chemical in a measuring cylinder, going drop by drop at the end with a dropper to, be as accurate as possible, and then pouring that into a conical flask, filling it with water, swishing it around, pouring it into the volumetric flask, saying, "Aw man," and then repeating another 5 times before going to the teacher in another room helping other students. Not sure what they asked, but like 10 seconds later, I hear the teacher shouting, "No!" from that room. She comes out of there and sees what should be just 4 volumetric flasks after what would take 15 minutes max were now 10 volumetric flasks on the table filled with varying intensities of blue liquid after over an hour of class, and she says, "What the heck have you guys been doing this whole time?" I'll again give them the benefit of the doubt since we haven't had a physical class in over 6 months, and that high school, where you learn how to do these things, was even longer before that. They were standing around the table, and the teacher pretty much explains what I said and asked where the heck they even got the idea to use a conical flask, while I stood across them with a beaming smile under my mask. If there was ever a moment for a "I told you so," that would have been the moment. I don't care how shy you are, you need to go up to them and say, "I told you how to do it." The story just feels incomplete without that. And our final story of the day is by Life is Just Lemons. You want me to mark all the clearance? Okay. During college, I worked at a large department store that was not Walmart in the clothing section. Someone messed up somewhere and we somehow got all of the straw hats for the entire state one summer. They legit would not stop coming. Thousands of hats. Now, I usually did the clearance markdowns for this section. The day comes around and there's something like 6,000 new markdowns that have to be completed that day. The process is that you scan the item, print the ticket, put the sticker on the item. I was also responsible for answering the phone for the entire store and manning the fitting rooms. I'm also the only one scheduled until 2 p.m. for the clothing section. My manager approaches me first thing and tells me I need to get them all marked down by the end of my 6-hour shift and leads me to the basement where the hats are. I ask about the phones and rooms and they tell me they'll handle them. So I complied. I sat down with the printer and started scanning. Not even an hour in, I start getting, "Clothing department, you have a call on line X. Clothing department, you have a customer coming your way. Clothing department," over the walkie-talkies because no one was up there. This gets the attention of the store manager, there are several levels, and he's freaking out. "Where's the clothing department rep? Why are there so many calls? No one's watching the fitting rooms, what's going on?" Both he and my manager come down to talk to me at about the 3-hour mark. What's taking so long? I had gotten through about half of the hats. Relief was still hours away. Neither manager knew what to do, but both were angry. I asked if they just wanted me to activate the prices without doing the stickers. I've already marked the 300 or so we managed to cram on the sales floor. Nope, you have to follow the process. So I just sat there. Scan, print, stick, scan, print, stick. I got to sit in the basement and sip Starbucks and listen to music while doing markdowns and ignoring work upstairs during back-to-school season. They checked on me every 30 minutes and ended up calling in other team members in early for overtime to cover because I had to follow the process. 6 hours later, I left, having marked them all. Best shift ever. I just like to imagine this all happen in like Seattle, just someplace that has like the least amount of use for straw hats. This kind of reminds me of the time I ordered a free box from the USPS because you can do that, they'll just drop off a box at your house. So I ordered one box, and then for the next week, every single day they would drop a box off at my house. So now I have like 6 USPS boxes just sitting around, like what am I gonna do with these? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.